Colby, I'll give you the first question here because I still have to redeem myself from the Donkey of the Day award on Oilers Nation. So I'm going to let it settle in a little bit.
So Tyler, first off, are you already at the office, already at the studio today? This is an early morning for you, huh?
No. This is my B setup at home. My usual setup's in the other side of the room. This is my Oilers Nation one. When the boys really need a win, I go full homer mode. Come for you.
All right,
Come here from the Oilers side of the studio.
Well, look, we want to welcome in. We know when you come on our show, you bring an audience, and so we want to welcome in the Oilers Nation peeps that are piling into the show right now just to hear you dunk on Johnny, because you usually have to put him in his place a little bit. But let's get right into the series, because I got to tell you, man, there's a $9.5 million elephant in the room in Edmonton right now. And there's been some rumblings of a Philip Broberg sighting. I don't know if you're going to maybe see an 11-7 in the playoffs tonight. I think the New York Rangers maybe need to consider going 11-7, but we're kind of done talking about that series. What's going to happen? Because that is a big question mark right now for your Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, honestly, it's a $9.25 million question. It's really more like a $12.5 million question, because Cody Ceci's been unplayable. Darnell Nurse had a really, really bad game 3. They were both awful in game 3. To their credit, I think they were actually both coming off some somewhat decent hockey games. I thought Nurse was really good in game 7 against the Canucks. I thought Nurse was passable in games 1 and 2 against Dallas. Cody Ceci, I mean, he's replacement level when he's at his best. So I guess you could say he was replacement level the first 2 games of this series. But when you're spending $12.5 million on one D pairing and it's unplayable, we're not even talking, again, the way they were in game 3, the way they are whenever they're together, whenever they've been together in these playoffs, it's not even replacement level. It's below that. They are awful as a pairing, and why Chris Knobloch feels the need to continually go back to it makes no sense. He played Nurse and Desharnais together in the first period of game 3. The Oilers dominated. They were up 2-0, and I know it wasn't because of Nurse and Desharnais, but we get to the second period, and who's out there for the first shift or second shift? It's Nurse and Ceci, and it's what are we doing here? What I keep equating it to, and Knobloch, he went back to it in game 1, and it went terribly. Dallas immediately turned the game around. I keep equating it to when the waiter brings you your food and is like, hey, the plate's really hot, don't touch it. And you're like,
I'm going to touch it.
I'm going to touch it. And Chris Knobloch's he's got to know by now that this pairing sucks. But it almost feels like he sits there and is like, I'm going to touch it. I'm going to try it one more time just to see how bad it is. And then it turns to shit. It makes no sense, man. It's the reason. It's the number one reason they lost game 3, because there was a long list.
Tyler, I know scoring isn't necessarily the issue right now with Edmonton, but similar to how I've felt, the power play and special teams has driven the New York Rangers all year, I kind of feel similar with Edmonton. Do you think because of the fact, what are they, 0 for 5
in
the 3 games? If they don't have a chance to get going, do they almost feed off of their power play and it creeps into the rest of their game? If they're not scoring on the 5-on-4, are they now screwed just for the rest of the game?
The way I look at it, it's such a big strength, and I know people love to do the whole you need to be able to play good at 5-on-5, and I get that. But having an elite power play is a big
helps.
It's what makes the Oilers, right? So part of it is the fact that the power play opportunities are down in this series, and I know Chris Knobloch spoke about it. I didn't think the officiating was bad in games 1 and 2. I actually thought Dallas played their typical really disciplined brand of hockey. Game 3, I felt like
the calls are even, right? It's been.
Yeah, the calls are even. In game 3, I thought, when it was 2-0 Oilers, Dallas got real frustrated and they got really sloppy for about 12 minutes. And the refs missed a high stick, missed a boarding, missed a trip on Connor Brown, a trip on Draisaitl. There were 4 penalties. I went back and was like, you could have easily called those. I felt like game management. They gave the Oilers the first power play. They were up 2-0. They didn't want to give them another one. But that, like I mentioned, Nurse Ceci are number 1. Officiating is 6 or 7 on the reasons why the Oilers lost. But I do think offensively, this team is having some struggles right now. The numbers I pulled up yesterday at 5-on-5, in the first period in game 3, the Oilers had 25 shot attempts. Only 10 of them turned into shots on goal. When you look at the game as a whole, they had 52 shot attempts and only 16 of them turned into shots on goal at 5-on-5. And listen, I'll give Dallas a ton of credit because they're getting in the lanes and they're really good with their sticks. And Pete DeBoer obviously has that team in a really strong system. But the amount of time the Oilers are getting the puck in the slot and they gotta stop it and look up, and it's like they're players on a beer league team, man. Like they've lost their killer instinct in the offensive zone, and that's right from the top down. I think like McDavid and Draisaitl at times have been a bit too hesitant, although McDavid was better in the first period of game one, and it feels like they want to pass the puck in the net and they're trying to be perfect. And when they get the puck in a decent opportunity somewhere in the offensive zone, they almost need to like double check that it's a good opportunity before they shoot. So they've been way too hesitant in the offensive zone. I even look back to last game, like, yeah, Dallas scored 4 goals. Great. The Oilers were on home ice and had a 2-goal first period. There's no reason why this Oilers team every once in a while can't go out there and pop home 5 on a team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just haven't had the ability to stretch it out like we see them do in the regular season when they're able to extend those leads. Look, I know you guys are heavily Oilers focused, Oilers Nation for a reason, but you were boots on the ground in Dallas for game 1 and game 2. I know game 3 travel woes struck, and you landed during puck drop, so you guys weren't able to make it into the building for game 3, but I assume you'll be back there for game 4. And let me ask you, how concerned are you with Ropa Hintz being reinserted into this series? Because
I thought we're just calling him Hints now.
because it just seemed like things drastically changed in that hockey game with his influence, especially on Robertson, but just, you know, you watch how he forechecks, you watch how he closes on guys, you watch how the Edmonton Oilers D group is a little more back on their heels and a little more uncomfortable with his presence. And you also got to think he's going to get better the more he plays and the more his conditioning levels come back.
Yeah, it's really concerning, and what really scares me is the way he reslots their depth. Like when Hintz is out, it's Matt Duchene and Wyatt Johnston as the top 2 centers, and you kind of look at that, and I think it was honestly true in games 1 and 2, and it's like, okay,
Manageable.
yeah, even if Dallas gets their matchups, like I'll take big playoff Leon Draisaitl up against rookie Wyatt Johnston. I'll take Connor McDavid against Matt Duchene. Matt Duchene's not good defensively. And now Hintz is back. And it's like, okay, now one of Draisaitl or McDavid have to deal with Hintz. And now Duchene is getting slotted back down. I know on Daily Faceoff we have him listed as the second line, but it's really the third line. Now that third line gets a great matchup, and it's Duchene and Sagan and Marchment, and they get a chance to create a little bit more because, you know, they obviously have great chemistry from the regular season, and they're away from one of the 2 big dogs in Edmonton. So it's dangerous because Hintz is a great player, obviously, and a really good defensive centerman. He's going to be a pain in their ass, and he's waking up Jason Robertson as well. But the second part of it is he pushes down everyone in that lineup and makes Dallas's depth way better, and that's a problem for the Oilers because their third line sucks.
Well, to that too, seeing Jason Robertson wake up in game 3, does that spark an incredible fear in the eyes of Oilers fans?
Like it does and it doesn't, because I look at some of those goals and it's like, yeah, they gave him way too much time and space. And when you give a really talented player time and space, they're gonna burn you more often than not. But
that third one can't go in though, too. Like in the third period, that was terrible.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more reasons than just Skinner on that
I didn't
one.
think that goal was as soft as I think some people thought, and I thought
I thought it was terrible.
Henrik Lundqvist did a nice job on the broadcast. I know you guys are watching Sportsnet in Canada. We're watching TNT on that series, which we're really lucky to have. But Lundqvist talked about that RVH thing that the goaltenders do, and what he said was that Skinner reached. Had he just stayed in it, he would have been okay. But you watch Robertson, he makes that little deke, which kind of makes Skinner reach. Like, again, is it my favorite goal? Should he have stopped it? Yes. But I've seen him let in worse goals. Like, I don't think Skinner has been the problem. I see people calling for Picard again. Like, I think Skinner has made the last 2 games, has made a ton of saves that are like, are golden opportunities. They're grade A's. Even in the last game that Edmonton won, I thought he stood on his head in that game and it could have gone the other way.
For me on that goal, and we broke down the highlight 25 times on Owen every day
I'm
yesterday.
sure you're sick of
But
talking about it already.
yeah, but you look at where so the puck gets to the top of the zone, they can't get it out. If you go watch every single one of Dallas's goals, I'm pretty sure with 20 seconds, within the 20 seconds before the goal happening, the Oilers have a chance to get the puck out and they can't.
Mhm.
Very common theme in the last game. But the puck gets to the top of the zone, turns around, goes right back down low. Cody Ceci is on top of the faceoff circles. Why? Is my question. And then when
Mhm.
it gets down low, Robertson has it, and Leon Draisaitl's not quick enough to get back to cover for Cody Ceci. So Darnell Nurse feels like he can't leave the guy going to the back door wide open. So Nurse just kind of goes on one knee in no man's land and covers nobody. And
Yeah.
then you give Jason Robertson, I think we counted 3 full seconds with the puck down low. And if you're Stuart Skinner, you're sitting there staring down a guy who's already burned you a couple times in this game. He has the puck for 3 full seconds down low, which is an eternity. And you have to, for a second, if you're Skinner, look and be like, well, no one's covering anyone. You have in front of the net Darnell Nurse just on one knee in front of you. Okay, well, that's very easy for Jason Robertson to send one backdoor. Leon Draisaitl's not on his guy yet, and Cody Ceci may as well have gone for a line change. So should Skinner have stopped it? Yes. Should that opportunity have ever happened? No. Should Jason
Mhm.
Robertson ever have 3 seconds in front of the net? No. So like again, pile on Skinner, sure, I guess, but like man, at some point you need to help the guy out a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, you watch too on the Robertson one-timer goal, the duplication that happens, like, that's a big buzzword. At least, Bruce Cassidy used to talk about this all the time when I played for him. When you duplicate on the walls, right? Meaning there's a play, let's say around the top of the circle, and a winger goes down on him and a D is already up on him, and that duplication happens. If you don't come out with the puck and you duplicate, and I think it was McDavid that actually get caught duplicating there, that you're giving up a grade A scoring chance. If an NHL player executes, which Dallas does, you're giving up grade A's when you duplicate. And even the game where Dallas only had 4 or 5 shots in the first period, I talked about this yesterday, Tyler. Of those 5 or 6 shots, 4 or 5 of them were grade A's. They were. And I feel like Edmonton's defensive zone has gotten leaky. I think it's gotten leaky. I think they're not the attention to detail is slipping. And I think that's something that Knobloch has got to get with his team on video and talk about, because Pete DeBoer's group, it's like Florida. They reload above the puck. They continue to put pressure on you. They force you to make mistakes. They don't let you play north. They want to force you to go east-west the way they cut the ice in half. And you've just got to be able to win the neutral zone. They said it on TV last night, right? And I don't remember who said it exactly. I think maybe it would have been Ray Ferraro who said it on the ESPN show. You can't win the game in the neutral zone, but you can lose the game in the neutral zone. And I think Edmonton's got to really take that to heart with this Dallas Stars team, because of the way that they are able to transition up and down the ice and how successful they've been at it.
Yeah, and a bunch of Oilers fans were kind of complaining the other day. We had John Goyens on to give us kind of a film breakdown, and Oilers fans were like, they're cherry picking. Dadonov and Marchment, they get 2 breakaways a game. They're sitting there cherry picking. And I don't think it's that, because they're doing it safely. And Goyens kind of pointed out that, like, when you watch, like, they're not flying the zone until they are absolutely sure that their guy has control of the puck and that they're going to be able to get a chance out of it. So I think that is something as well. Like, the Oilers have gotten caught flat-footed a couple times, and it's resulted in Stars breakaways. Like, you talk about Skinner, man, when that game was 3-2, Skinner stopped Marchment on a breakaway and just made a beautiful read to stop it as well. That goes in, man, and that game is over a lot earlier than it was.
Tyler, I just want to ask you what the energy is going to be like tonight, because I feel like the Oilers, similar now to Leafs fans almost, where like you can get up and you just feel like nothing's ever safe, right? So the Edmonton Oilers have had really good starts to these last 2 games. In game 2, they aren't able to finish. In game 3, they're able to finish, but they can't hold on to that lead. Like, what the hell happens between the first and second period where that collapse is just unavoidable, it seems, in these past couple games?
Yeah, it's gonna be a nervous energy tonight in the building. Like again, Oilers fans, there are some fan bases who are just kind of like blindly going into the games, right? Like I think of when I go to games in when I go to playoff games in LA and they just like randomly cheer for things. You're like, that doesn't make sense. I don't think you guys really know that much about what you're watching right now, which is fine. They're fans and whatever. But in Edmonton, it's like it's a smart fan base, man. And the people who shell out the thousands of dollars to go to a playoff game in Edmonton, they know the sport pretty well for the most part. Like they're not dumb. So tonight, I don't know if there's really going to be a lot of just like blind cheering and blind standing ovations for this team. I think it's going to be a real nervous energy in the building.
Well, look, I think the way they get up before the game, they sing the anthem.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, the
unreal.
energy, it's one of the only buildings left that I think you can really feel. You can feel the atmosphere at home. And I think we've hit on this show a couple of times. The last guy that I want to ask you about in particular, and it's a Dallas Stars defenseman who I gotta think the Edmonton Oilers and the Edmonton Oilers fan base are sick of seeing Chris Tanev. I mean, the guy just pops up in the worst way possible for the Edmonton Oilers every year. He just brings so much grit and so much character to his position. Maybe the Edmonton Oilers need to go out this summer and find a way to get this guy into Edmonton Oilers colors, because they got to stop running into him in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I agree. Like I love the kind of defenseman that Chris Tanev is, and he's a pain in the ass. And I talked about the Oilers' problems getting pucks through, and one of them is that Chris Tanev gets in every single lane, and he's an elite shot blocker. But at the other side, the most Oilers thing to possibly do would be to get, again, frustrated by Chris Tanev in multiple playoffs and then go sign him when he's 34 years old and get the worst possible years out of Chris Tanev.
Well, look, you're most likely going to see a new general manager after this year. I mean, it's not 100% confirmed, but it's 99.9% confirmed, right? Like Holland will not be back as a general manager, so you really have no idea. What they're gonna look like and what's gonna happen this year. And look, if Edmonton loses, I mean, I hate to say this. But it is something that is a realistic scenario. I don't know how realistic. Could this be Leon Draisaitl's last game in Edmonton as an Oiler? It's a question that you can shake your head.
That's a Johnny question, bro.
Tell me why I'm crazy. Tell me why I'm crazy.
I'll tell you exactly why you're crazy.
All
Because
right.
what happens 1 year after Leon Draisaitl's a UFA? Connor McDavid's a UFA. You need to do everything in your power to keep Connor McDavid happy, because you need to keep him in Oilers colors for his entire career.
Okay, agreed.
If you go out this summer and you sit there, like Leon Draisaitl in all likelihood is going to be the best man at this dude's wedding. Like they are tight, right? Their girls are tight. If you go out this summer and you have to sit down Connor McDavid and say, Connor, we're trading Leon Draisaitl to the Boston Bruins for Linus Ullmark and 2 first-round picks, how do you think he's going to react to that?
I'm out.
Yeah, not happy.
He's probably going to go, oh, we're not trying to win anymore. That's great. It is a massive, massive risk to run Leon Draisaitl into unrestricted free agency. I totally understand that. But moving him and pissing off Connor McDavid leading into the summer where you need to try sign Connor McDavid to an extension, that's no bueno. What you need to, the message you have to send to Connor is, we want to win a cup with you. We know our best chance to win a cup with you is to win a cup with you and Leon Draisaitl, and we're going to give you every single opportunity we can to win a Stanley Cup, and we're going to give you the best opportunities you can. And the best opportunity to win a cup next year, regardless of what happens tonight or the rest of the series, the best opportunity is to have them both on your roster. So is it a massive risk to keep Leon Draisaitl into a contract year? Obviously. But I also, and Frank agrees with me on this too, Leon Draisaitl is not going anywhere. Like, he hasn't won here. Him and Connor have unfinished business. Like I always kind of made the joke that actually the longer the Oilers go without winning, the more likely it is that Draisaitl eventually re-signs, because I don't think he's going to walk away from McDavid without the two of them having won anything. So they're so tight. Even if you're Draisaitl, I think it's a bit of a grass is always greener thing, where it's like, where are you going to go? You want to go play in Boston really bad, or you want to go play in LA really bad, or something like that? sure, you can, but you're never going to get to play with Connor McDavid or anyone close to him in any of those markets. You're never going to have someone who can set you up in your office the way Connor McDavid does. You're never going to have anyone who can insulate you in terms of the pressure. Like, again, when the Oilers fail, the conversation is always about Connor. It's never about what Leon's doing. So I don't think that he's going to leave, and I don't think there's a chance. I don't even think there's a 1% chance the Oilers trade him this summer.
And all the people in the chat, Johnny, before you jump in, there's a lot of people saying, what are the Oilers going to do with Nurse? Just to try to make people feel a little bit better about Darnell Nurse, just remember something. His $9.5 million, it seems like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but the cap is going to go up $4 million this year. The following year, the cap probably goes up another $4 million. So the percentage of that $9 million that counts against that cap, that's going to continue to go down over the next couple of years. So I'm not justifying how poorly he's played. It's been hard to watch, to be honest. And it's hard to watch a guy of his size lose every puck battle. It's one thing if you get walked. It's one thing you make a bad pass. It's one thing, like those types of things happen. But to watch a man of his size and stature lose puck battles time and time again, that to me is unfixable, because that's motor. That's not, and Frank disagreed with me on this, by the way, on your show yesterday, Tyler, or the day before, whatever day I did it with him. He said to me, it's not a motor issue. And I said, well, I don't know what you're watching then, because I'm watching this guy get out battled on every puck. So he's either injured or he's not ramping his intensity to the level of other players. But all I'm saying is that $9+ million is going to look less and less of a problem over the next couple of seasons. And I know that's easy for me to say, sitting here in Villanova, Pennsylvania, a million miles away from Edmonton, right? But just to give you a little bit of solace on that.
Well, I saw someone threw this idea out there on Twitter, and it kind of was like, I was like, whoa, that makes a lot of sense. Go around the league. Who's another very expensive, overpaid defenseman who isn't coming off a good year? It's Erik Karlsson, Kyle Dubas, Soo Greyhounds GM, Darnell Nurse, drafted into the OHL by Kyle Dubas. Him and Dubas go way back. We know the Leafs would have had interest in Nurse had he gotten unrestricted free agency, because Dubas loves his Soo Greyhounds. If you're Pittsburgh, you don't really need the power play quarterback of Erik Karlsson. That was a square peg, round hole kind of fit. And obviously the Oilers have Bouchard. They don't really need Karlsson either, but I'd rather have the puck mover than the guy who gets burned every second shift. Who says no to that?
Doesn't Karlsson have some money tied up in San Jose as well? So he's not quite as heavy of a cap hit. I'd have to look it up.
He's
but
10.
I know
2 more years for 10, or 3 more years for 10.
And how many years does Darnell have left on his deal?
Darnell Nurse has, I think, 5 more years at 9.2.
That's the length of that makes that really, really difficult. Really,
Wait,
really.
I lied. He's got 7 more years.
Oh, jeez. Sorry, that Twitter trade.
Yeah,
With that Twitter trade just went up in smoke.
I don't know, man. I think Pittsburgh, they need to change something this summer.
well, I don't think Darnell Nurse is the answer.
Yeah, but just getting away from Karlsson and getting a younger option in there, and Nurse, a guy that maybe fits your system a bit better, because again, you already have Letang. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's
All
29.
right, Johnny, you have one more, and then I'll finish up with him after that.
Yep, I just have one more, and this kind of leads into Betway, I feel like, as well, Kobe, if we want to get into that. But we talked about Dylan Holloway last time you were on here. We gave him his praise. 3 games in, no points, -2. How's this guy got to get going? Because, I mean, Edmonton, we talked about it. Offense isn't the issue right now, but they need all guys going, and Holloway was one of those guys. When they were winning games, he was a big part of it.
Yeah, I actually listen. One of the things that really frustrated me with that Oilers effort was there weren't enough players who were going out there and playing with a little bit of desperation to try like get themselves out of those jams. I thought Dylan Holloway still was kind of flying around the ice, so I haven't had a big problem, even if the boxcars maybe aren't backing that up. I think he's been okay. He had that breakaway earlier in the series that he missed on. He still moves his feet well. He still forechecks really, really hard. And can I give you a number? I just looked it up here to double check.
Mm-hmm.
When Dylan Holloway has been on the ice with Cody Ceci in these playoffs, the Oilers have been outscored 5-2 at 5-on-5. Okay, -3 when he's with Cody Ceci. When Dylan Holloway has been on the ice without Cody Ceci in these playoffs, +5 at 5-on-5. It's a -3 to +5 swing. Basically, any Oiler that has shitty numbers, just go to natural stat trick, use the line tool, punch in their name and Cody Ceci, and you'll be like, oh shit, that's pretty crazy, actually. Like, again, he's not an elite defensive player. He's not going to go out there and change the pulse of the game with a good play in the D zone or anything like that. He's been out there stuck in the D zone with defensemen who don't know what the hell they're doing, and it's hurting his numbers and it's hurting his ability to actually do things on the other side of the ice with Leon Draisaitl. And Leon Draisaitl, I think his number, the split's even worse. I think it's -5 or -4 with CC and +5 without CC.
So basically, if we hear a story that Cody Ceci's car tires got slashed and he missed tonight's game, and no Uber would go pick him up, we know Tyler put the hex on him and made it so he couldn't get to the game. Tyler, I'm gonna put you on the hot seat a little bit, okay? What are you doing with the D-core tonight? Who's coming in? Who's coming out? What are you doing with the pairs?
I'm going 11-7 tonight, and I'm playing Philip Broberg. To me, like, listen, CC sucked, Nurse sucked. Vinny Desharnais also had a really rough game, and he's had some rough moments earlier in this series as well that kind of just got glossed over because the games were close and the Oilers won game one. So to me, there's 3 D-men you can't trust right now on this blue line. To be fair, though, all of those guys have had good stretches in these playoffs. So what I do if I'm Knoblauch, I play Broberg as my 7. I'm fully prepared to flip Brett Kulak to the offside if I need to at one point. And I'm sitting there going, hey, this group of 7 D-men, guess what? If you're not rolling, if you're not making smart plays, I got an option. You're going to sit your ass on the bench. I just think even having Broberg there could kind of spark and scare maybe Nurse and CC straight a little bit. And then what it does up front, you have the last change. So you can go down the middle. You got McDavid, Draisaitl, and Adam Henrique. On the wing pairs, you go Nuge, you go Hyman, you go Holloway and Kane, you go Fogle and McLeod, because McLeod's apparently going to draw back in. McLeod, way more productive as a winger than a center this year. And then your fourth line, I'd take out Carrick and Ryan.
Okay. Carrick, who you traded for this year.
Yeah, but I mean, traded for is loose. He was a throw into the Henrique deal, right? They didn't really give up anything to get him. And then I go Janmark and Brown on the fourth line, and I'm rolling my 3 centers. You got last change. You got, some decent offensive players kind of on every wing pair there. And you're going to roll McDavid and Draisaitl out there a ton and try to get them in some gravy matchups.
Well, and it's funny because Connor Brown just took an absolute beating all season, especially from you guys. Liam just absolutely kills him on Oilers Nation, and he's actually been productive. He's made some plays in the playoffs. Like he's kind of redeemed his season a little bit. And it's funny, and we're gonna let you go in a second here, and I have to throw a little shade at you and Liam actually, because I do remember talking with you guys around the trade deadline, and you were like, don't just bring in another guy. Cody Ceci's like the grass isn't always greener with a Cody Ceci type of guy. And you're so unhappy with Cody Ceci right now. So he's got to redeem himself, or we might have to start pulling receipts to Oilers Nation type of stuff from the trade deadline when I think you guys felt like, you know what, maybe Cody Ceci's okay. Maybe we do hang on to him. When others were saying Exodus, bring in a warm body, whoever it may be. Also, no Corey Perry. That I forgot about him. We haven't seen much of him. I mean,
nothing.
You brought him here for a reason.
He's in a home. He just can't keep up. Like he's so slow, man. There's no point in playing him anymore. I was at my wit's end with him at the end of the regular season, and people were like, "Well, just wait, playoff Corey Perry's coming. Like it's some magical thing."
I thought it would be. I'm one of those people. I was one of those people who thought he could be effective, not great, but effective.
He can't skate well enough is the problem. And again, you can want to ramp up your intensity and all that stuff, but when you're the worst skater on the ice every time you're on the ice, it's not going to happen for you. So I don't think he has a path back to getting into the lineup this series, just because, again, if they go 11-7, they're making tough decisions with Carrick and Derek Ryan. And even if someone gets hurt, I think you're just letting Carrick and Derek Ryan and Ryan McLeod all play. Like there's just no reason for Perry.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.